konnichiwa, Ari desu. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are the 2nd of February and I'm so excited to film this video today, guys. This is the first of my new series on this channel where I'll be doing monthly recaps for you on my language study. So I'm gonna try, okay? I'm crossing my fingers here that everything will be okay this year and I won't have any disturbance throughout the year, but if everything goes well, then I'll be able to produce 12 of these videos throughout the year. Wish me luck. But today we're doing the first video in the series and I'm going to talk about January. How January went in terms of language study. So if you guys are new to this channel, I'm studying 3 languages at the moment. I'm studying Japanese at advanced level. I'm studying Mandarin Chinese at beginner-ish level, like upper beginner, let's say, and Russian at baby beginner novice level. You would have seen in my recent weekly study vlog that I uploaded on this channel that I'm having like the best time of my life studying these languages. Today I'm gonna share with you 4 things: what my January goals were and whether I met them, how I studied Japanese specifically and how I improved my Japanese, how I restarted studying Mandarin Chinese and Russian, and finally how I've been auditing new study resources for both Mandarin Chinese and Russian. In January, I actually did something that I've never done before. So I took my language study journal. I've talked about it many times. If you're interested, I have a bunch of videos on my channel talking about this specifically. So basically, I reserved 1 page on my study journal to write down my monthly goals. And so this year I'm going to do that for every month. My January goals were to set good goals and to try them out, to restart Chinese and Russian, and to stick to a reasonable weekly plan. Okay, so let's take them one by one. When I said to set good goals and try them out, I was talking about my yearly study goals for all 3 languages, doing some introspection, doing some reflection also on the past year, doing my research also, seeing what I could end up having as my goals for the year 2024 in all 3 languages. Took me about a whole week, the first week of January, but I did manage to then set my goals. I made a video out of it. It's already out on the channel. And I think I've devised quite good goals. We'll see how it goes throughout the year and maybe I'll have to update them throughout the year. We'll see. In which case I will tell you guys, of course. I've been able to devise them and then trying them out. I mean, I've started on that too. So that's ticked off. Then on restarting Chinese and Russian, I have restarted my studies in both of these languages. So that's also successful. I'm still keeping Japanese as my primary language. I've talked about that briefly in my goals for the year video. My 3rd goal was to stick to a reasonable weekly plan. So I did manage to do that. And that's also because I managed to actually complete almost 100% of my goals every week. Almost. There is one thing I missed. On week 2, I wanted to cover 2 chapters, chapter 12 and chapter 13 of my Chinese textbook, and I didn't manage to cover the 2nd chapter, so it's chapter 13 that week. So the next week I adapted this and I only put chapter 13 to complete during the week. And I managed to do it. But other than that, I've completed, let's say, 99% of my weekly goals. So I would say that, the goal of sticking to a reasonable weekly study plan is completed. I have been successful there, so I'm really happy. And so why did I put this as part of my monthly goals? It was just because at the end of 2023, I was having a bit of trouble with my weekly study lists. I was not completing them. And that was for a few different reasons. I was doing language study and I was doing language immersion, but not the kind that I put on my weekly study list. So the goal there was to have the reality meet my weekly study list. So I just reflected on what I was actually doing during the week for my languages and then putting some of that in my lists. And then, of course, keeping maybe half of what was originally on my study list. So, for example, textbook study, so active studying. And then keeping half of this on my study list so that I would would, meet myself halfway there so that I would actually have a reasonable plan on what I would actually want to be doing for my languages during the week. That's exactly what I did from the first week of January, and so far it's been working great, so I'll keep doing that. For Japanese in 2024, you would have seen in my yearly goals video that I want to work on 4 aspects of my Japanese knowledge this year. So we're going to take them one by one and see how I've been studying towards each of these goals during the month of January. I asked myself, okay, what can I do this month in January to get closer to these goals? What resources do I have right now to be able to study and get myself closer and closer to these end goals, right? So we're gonna start by kanji. For 2024, I want to upgrade my kanji level in general. And actually, I didn't have to think long for this one because from the end of 2023, I was already studying with a kanji textbook. So this is the Shinkansen Master NHK Kanji. Right now, as I film this video, I finished the first big chapter of this textbook. There are only 3 chapters. I have been working my way through it at a pace of 1 to 2 sub-chapters per week, and it's been going great. So I'm going to continue that until the textbook is done. I've also been doing some writing practice, like just a little bit. I've been using the same app I was using a few years ago, and I've just restarted, I deleted all my data and I restarted on this app from scratch, and it is the Kanji Ninja app. So this is an app designed for Japanese children, elementary school students, to help them study kanji, how to read them, write them, recognize them. I've just been using the writing practice part of that app. In January, I've just been using it a little bit. The second thing I've been working on was upgrading my written expression skills. So I've been doing that by typing essays of at least 500 characters per week. So like every week, either I've been writing an essay or I've been paying like special attention to how authors formulate certain ideas when reading. So I've been reading a lot in January. I think I've read 6 books in Japanese. And so reading all of that, I paid like special attention to how certain sentences are formulated. It was just to check with myself whether I could actually write like that, whether I could make that kind of sentences. Then I've also been upgrading my oral expression skills. In that case, I've done it twice during the month, and what I've been doing was talking to myself while dictating on my phone. So basically I choose a topic, and for 15 minutes I would talk about this topic while dictating on my phone, so that what I was dictating would show up. I'm using Google Docs for that. And once I'm done talking, once the 15 minutes are up, I check what I've been saying. And so doing this way, I'm noticing the grammar mistakes I'm doing, for one thing. And I'm also noticing that in some cases I was looking for my words, not speaking very fluidly. This is a great practice to upgrade my oral skills. And also for my oral expression skills, basically I've been doing the same as for my written expression skills. Whatever I was watching, so I watched a lot of drama episodes, for example, during the month. I rewatched some episodes of Nigehaji. I watched the monthly episodes of the new Taiga drama about Murasaki Shikibu. Great, by the way. Oh, and I also watched Kino Nani Tabeta Season 2. While watching all of this and also watching the technical videos, the technical subject videos I'm watching every single week, I have been paying special attention, once again, to how people express themselves and how they formulate certain things, so that when I'm speaking myself, I can recall these sentence structures and really make the most of my listening immersion, basically. The 4th goal I have in Japanese for 2024 is to upgrade my overall level to uni level. So I've talked about this a little bit in my yearly goals video in January. I worked on this passively, just in the sense that, working on my 3 other goals is technically bringing me closer to achieving that goal too, to bring my overall level to uni level. I'm just not doing it actively at the moment. So I will start doing that later during the year. Alright, so that's it for Japanese. Let's move on to how I restarted Chinese and Russian. We're gonna start by Chinese. What do you think? I can't hear you, but I'm guessing you're okay with that. So let's start with Chinese. My yearly goal for Chinese is to get my overall level to HSK2 level. Getting myself to HSK2 level this year is quite a big goal, but I'm happy because then it means that I will be working on it actively, and that's always a good thing because it keeps me motivated. So to do that, in January, I've just been working my way through the NHK Nyumon, so the 中国語 NHK Nyumon textbook. And to be honest, I shared a little bit about this on my Instagram, and I was saying that it was a pain going through this textbook because I just didn't want to sit down and study with this textbook. It was a bit boring. It was a struggle, and I still wanted to finish this textbook because I was already almost at the middle part of the textbook, so I really want to finish it. Getting over the middle part of the textbook, I realized that I was having a lot more fun, and I realized that this was because the grammar points presented, so this is technically a grammar textbook, but it's not specifically focused on grammar only. It's giving you vocab, it's giving you listening comprehension exercises and reading comprehension exercises as well, so it's an all-round textbook. But then the grammar points presented got interesting finally in the second part of the book. So now I'm having fun going through the book and I'm happy I pushed through. But yeah, for the most part of January, I was just struggling a little bit with that textbook. The second textbook I've been using, well, it's not technically a textbook, it's a vocab book. It's the HSK1 textbook, the Speedmaster, and I'm using this one only to check whether or not I have enough vocab to technically pass the HSK1 level, because my goal is to go to HSK2 at the end of the year, but then I first have to cover all the HSK1 materials, right? I'm not there yet. But anyway, I've been working my way through this vocab book in January, and it's been great. No reluctance, no resistance to study with this vocab book, so I'm happy because you guys know, or maybe you don't know, but I'm telling you, I hate vocab books in the first place, so I'm happy that using this vocab book is actually fun. I've been learning some new words, so I'm very happy there. My bonus goal for Chinese this year is to read one book before the end of the year. And in January, how have I been working my way towards this goal? It's been through reading immersion using Do Chinese, the app Do Chinese. And I'm getting more and more confident. In the month of January, I basically upgraded my own level of reading immersion by going up a level. So in Do Chinese, you have different levels for the stories that they have on the app. At the beginner levels on the app, they have the newbie and elementary levels. And basically, I went over all the stories I wanted to read on the newbie level. And now I'm finally within the elementary level. It's been great. I've been reading, in January, I was reading the 101 store story, and it was a great story. I loved it. And now I'm on to the Butterfly Lovers. I think that's how it's called. And the last thing I did for Chinese was to basically replace whatever I was doing on Duolingo with Mandarin Chinese, because I was using Duolingo mainly for Mandarin Chinese in 2023. But then I realized at the end of 2023, actually, that in 2024, I didn't want to continue using Duolingo for Mandarin Chinese. And I'm using Duolingo right now for Russian, but I'm speed running it, and the whole topic of Duolingo is, it's a topic in and of itself, and I want to talk about it. It will have its own video on my channel. I really want to talk about how my vision on Duolingo changed and how I'm using it now. Nevertheless, for Mandarin Chinese, I stopped using Duolingo, so I needed to replace it with something else. And so basically, I've been on the lookout for a new resource there to use to study Mandarin Chinese. So that's how I've been restarting my studying of Mandarin Chinese. Restarting Russian. How have I been restarting Russian studying this year? Well, first of all, I devised some goals for my Russian studying because I finally decided that in 2024 I would take it up seriously. I really want to study this language seriously. So now that I've decided that, I've committed to the language, so I have devised goals. So basically the month of January was spent understanding which resources I wanted to use over the month and then over the year to make sure sure I reached my goal. My goals for Russian for the year are to get to A1 level, so really the first level of the CEFR reference system. And then I want to upgrade my Cyrillic skills. So, I mean, it goes with studying the language, but I really need to get comfortable with Cyrillic this year and have no more issues reading it, writing it, whether in typed letters or cursive letters. In January, what I did to get closer to both of these goals was to speedrun Duolingo. I've been doing a lot of that in January. And through that, I've been working on my Cyrillic because on Duolingo, of course, you do have to recognize words and whole sentences written in Cyrillic. So I've been working on that there. I've also been working on my pronunciation, acquiring vocab, of course, my listening skills as well. There are listening exercises on Duolingo as well. For all the skills required to get to A1 level, I've been working on them through Duolingo, basically. Another resource I've been using a lot over the month of January was the Easy Russian YouTube channel and the podcasts. So for the YouTube channel, I've been going through some videos, street interviews, videos, which I enjoy a lot. They are really great, these videos. I love them. I love all of the themes they have picked up, and they are honestly great. I've been using them for listening immersion, vocab extraction, and shadowing. And honestly, I've been having a great time. The Easy Russian podcast. So within my goals, I want to cover one of these podcast episodes per month. And during the month of January, I did cover one of these episodes. And someone asked me the question of how I was covering these episodes and how come that I was only covering one per month. It's just because I'm doing it in layers. So I'm first listening to the podcast episodes in full. I'm just listening to it, without looking at anything. Then I'm listening to it a second time, this time looking at the English translation. Then I'm listening to it a third time, this time focusing on the Russian transcription. And then a fourth time, this time extracting the vocab I want to remember, and then a fifth time shadowing some of the parts that I want to be able to pronounce myself that I find interesting. This 5-step method I'll probably talk about in another video. I know I keep saying this a lot, but I mean there are a lot of topics I want to cover on the channel, so this is also part of them. How I've been upgrading my Cyrillic skills. I've been reading Cyrillic on Duolingo, on the Easy Russian podcast transcripts, and just in general, I've been trying to read any bits of Cyrillic I've found on the internet. Any bit of Cyrillic I've encountered in January, I've been trying to read so. And then for writing, I want to be able to write comfortably in Cyrillic and especially in cursive. So during the month of January, I've been doing this kind of practice by myself, like not using a specific resource. I was just using anything and everything I found. I tried transcribing in cursive some of the words that I, extracted from the Easy Russian videos and the Easy Russian podcast, and also the notes I've been taking from my Duolingo speedrun. Sometimes transcribe them in cursive. I mean, I tried transcribing them in cursive because I'm still a beginner there, and so there are some things I don't know yet, but it's getting there. I mean, I'm just upgrading little by little every single week. I just want to say that restarting my Russian studies has been honestly the highlight of my month in terms of language study. I've been having a blast with Russian. I can't really explain why. I suddenly fell in love even more with the language. I don't know. I think the first bit of the language, like really the novice level, I didn't enjoy that much because Cyrillic was hard to grasp and the pronunciation was hard to grasp as well, and I didn't really understand how the grammar was working. Of course, I was a novice. I knew nothing about Russian, but now that I digested this first bit of information about the language, I already feel much more comfortable, and I'm starting to think that this is completely possible for me to one day be able to think of this language as not foreign anymore. I know that a lot of you language learners also understand what I'm speaking about. The day you realize that one of the foreign languages you've been learning for a while isn't foreign to you anymore and is part of you, is an integral part of you as a person, is the day you know that you have digested this language and it is now in your system and you can only improve your level from that point on. And I know that with Russian, I will definitely get there one day. It feels so natural to be studying this language and, hearing it and trying to speak it myself. Even writing it is starting to feel more and more natural. So I've been having a blast with Russian, to be very honest with you. This is about Mandarin Chinese and Russian specifically because for Japanese, I have my pool of resources and I know which study resources I want to use. I'm really talking about auditing the new study resources I want to be using for my newer languages, Mandarin Chinese and Russian. What I've been doing here is first doing some research on the resources I could use. So I've been watching, for example, a bunch of videos of learners for both of these languages, seeing what they use, what they liked, what kind of resources and how they use their resources. So I've been doing my research, also looking it up on the internet. So it's been taking me a bit of time, but this is a necessary part of language learning, in my opinion, especially when you are learning by yourself. You need to kind of audit the landscape of study resources available to you and then decide what will work for you, what will not work for you. The best resources for me to use, not the best resources as a whole. I don't think it exists. So that's not what I'm trying to do, but I'm still trying to find resources that suit me personally. And so I know that these are mostly interactive resources that keep me out of my comfort zone and at the same time keep activating my recall ability. So things that have a lot of exercises, a lot of quizzes. I also like resources that help me keep my eyes on the prize. So what do I mean by that? I think it's an important part of how I function with my language learning. I like to know where I'm going. I like to see what the angle is for me. A perfect example, I think, for Russian, let's take Russian, would be the Easy Russian Street Interviews videos. This is a resource that is keeping my eyes on the prize because at the end of the day, these are street interviews, native Russian people, right? And they have a conversation with the journalists interviewing them for the videos, right? This kind of conversation with strangers about interesting topics. This is what I want to be able to do myself in the future. So this is one of the ways that I want to be able to use Russian in the future. So this is in and of itself keeping my eyes on the prize being able to communicate with native Russian people this way, talking about these interesting topics, seeing that in front of my eyes and studying with this resource specifically is motivating me. So this is what I mean by keeping my eyes on the prize. And some resources are perfect for that, honestly. Now, once I find resources that seem to be fitting me, resources that tick everything on my list, even part of my list, honestly, before I commit to them, because that's a big commitment for me. When I start a resource and I commit to a resource, I want to finish it. And sometimes it takes me months to cover the resources I commit to. I will have an audit phase of that resource. I will look at the whole resource comprehensively, trying to see what it wants to teach me, how it wants to teach me, the points it wants to cover. For example, if I want to study with a new textbook, I would look at the whole contents of the textbook first and then see how many chapters there are, for example. Try over the span of 1 week, try going over one part of that textbook. So that can be a whole chapter, that can be a sub-chapter, just a point that will fit within a 25-minute Pomodoro session. I will try this out, see how it goes. And so in January for Mandarin Chinese and Russian, that's exactly what I've been doing. I have audited a bunch of new resources. So for Russian, for example, I've received the Assimil textbook from France, and I've also received practice books for Cyrillic and also just exercise that go with the textbook. And I've done my auditing for these textbooks and I've started using one of them this week, in fact. Alright, so that's it, you guys. We've done my whole recap for the month of January. I hope you enjoyed today's video. We covered a lot because I covered a lot during the month of January. This was a great month, as I said. I can't wait to see what I will be up to during the month of February. And I'll probably vlog again a full week of studying during the month of February. So I hope you're excited for that. Alright, and as for me, as usual, I will see you in my next video. Bye bye! またね